This morning you did a handful of things no ancestor of yours could have dreamed of. You turned a small handle and clean, warm water appeared out of nowhere. You squeezed a tube, smeared a precisely engineered paste onto a plastic stick, and scrubbed every tooth one by one. You stood under a waterfall of hot water for 10 minutes and barely registered it was happening. And after all that, you probably still felt a little gross and needed coffee before you felt like a person. Now strip it all away. No handle, no tube, no falling water, no plastic, no factory, nothing. Just you, whatever the weather happens to be doing, and 30 other people facing the exact same problem. That was hygiene for 300,000 years. And how ancient humans actually handled it is stranger and smarter than you'd think. Let's start with teeth. Right now, your mouth is home to roughly 700 species of bacteria, and brushing doesn't lower that number, it just keeps it in check. Ancient humans had none of our gear, no brush, no paste, no floss, no mouthwash. And yet when archaeologists look at ancient skulls, they find something genuinely surprising. The teeth are often in better shape than yours. Not flawless, not always, but meaningfully better in specific ways. A 2013 study in Nature Genetics examined bacteria locked inside hardened dental plaque going back about 7,500 years. And the harmful bacteria in human mouths actually shot up after farming arrived, not before. Early humans ate a huge spread of foods, roots, berries, meat, nuts, leaves, and the ecosystem in their mouths reflected that variety. Once people switched to grain-heavy diets packed with refined carbohydrates, the exact bacteria that rot teeth multiplied. So hunter-gatherers didn't have better dental habits. They had better food. The day we invented bread, we more or less invented the cavity. But they weren't doing nothing either. We found small sticks deliberately frayed at one end, chewing sticks at sites across Africa and the Middle East stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Made from trees like neem or the meswak, these sticks contain natural antibacterial compounds that really do knock down harmful mouth bacteria. Modern studies have confirmed it. Some of them work nearly as well as a toothbrush. Ancient people didn't understand the chemistry. They just noticed that certain sticks left their mouths feeling cleaner, and they kept reaching for them. Now for the uncomfortable one, body odor. Here's the truth nobody mentions. You don't actually smell as bad as you fear when you skip a shower. Sweat isn't the culprit. Sweat is mostly water and salt, and on its own it's almost odorless. The smell comes when bacteria living on your skin feed on the compounds in your sweat and release waste as they go. The worst-smelling bacteria cluster in two places, the armpits and the groin, and they flourish in exactly the conditions modern life creates. The same clothes worn for days, trapped warmth, no airflow. Ancient humans lived in small groups, spent their days outdoors in moving air, and carried a completely different balance of bacteria on their skin. Not necessarily cleaner, just different. Research into communities that have never used soap or deodorant shows their skin microbiome is fundamentally unlike ours. We've scrubbed away entire bacterial populations with soap, and some of them were quietly useful, fending off pathogens, balancing skin pH, producing natural antimicrobials. And without knowing any of the science, ancient people had a practical trick. They rubbed aromatic plants onto their skin: mint, lavender, juniper, sage. The original goal was probably to keep insects away, but the side effect was that they smelled like the forest, which, in a world made entirely of forest, wasn't a bad way to smell at all. Hair is where it gets complicated. If you stopped washing your hair completely, you'd hit what people call the no-poo stage, weeks where your scalp pumps out excess oil because regular shampooing has trained it to overcompensate for being constantly stripped. Ancient humans never kicked off that cycle in the first place. Their scalps produced oil at a rate tuned for a life with no shampoo. They kept their hair in order by combing it. We've found combs carved from bone and wood at sites more than 10,000 years old, and they picked through each other's hair to clear out lice and parasites, a behavior anthropologists call social grooming. But it was never just cleaning. Robin Dunbar, the anthropologist behind the famous theory about the natural ceiling on human group size, argues that grooming, this close physical contact between people, was our original form of social bonding, long before language was rich enough to take over the job. Sitting with someone and working through their hair is an intensely intimate act. It takes trust, it takes closeness, it takes time. And ancient humans did it for hours every single day, not because they had nothing better to do, but because it was one of the most important things they could do. Then there's water, which is both simple and not. Ancient humans weren't afraid of it. They lived beside it, depended on it, washed in it. The idea that they never bathed is just wrong, and it seems to come from mixing up ancient hunter-gatherers with medieval Europeans, who are an entirely separate story. Foragers living near rivers and lakes washed regularly. The Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last true hunter-gatherer groups today, bathe in rivers and clean up with water as a normal part of daily life. What they didn't have was soap. The earliest evidence of soap making comes from ancient Babylon, around 2800 BCE. Before that, people used what was around them. Sand made a decent abrasive. Ash stirred into water creates a mildly alkaline mix that cuts through grease. Clay pulls oil out of skin when you smear it on and rinse it off. None of these match modern soap, but they're far from nothing. And for a body that had never met the bacteria our soaps are designed to fight, they were usually enough. And finally, the part everyone wonders about and nobody asks: toilet habits. Ancient humans handled it the way every animal does. They went outside. But they were cleverer about it than that makes it sound. A number of archaeological sites show what researchers describe as designated waste areas, specific spots kept well away from where the group slept and ate. Even Neanderthals, our close cousins who lived alongside early humans for thousands of years, show signs of this at sites in Spain and France. This matters more than it seems. Keeping waste separate from living space is one of the most powerful public health habits there is. Most of history's great plagues didn't strike because people were dirty in the way we mean it. They struck because cities crammed thousands of people together with no room to keep waste away from water. Small, roving bands sidestepped that disaster automatically. They weren't healthier than medieval city dwellers because they were smarter. They were healthier because they never stopped moving. Here's what stays with me. For 300,000 years, humans kept themselves clean enough to survive, to thrive, to build cultures and relationships and languages and art, without a single product, without one drop of anything made in a factory. And their methods, the chewing sticks, the aromatic plants, the grooming, the waste areas, the rivers, weren't crude stopgaps. They were solutions that worked. Some, like the antibacterial punch of the miswak, we're still studying today because they genuinely hold their own against modern alternatives. The routine you ran through this morning, the hot water, the engineered paste, the waterfall from nowhere, is extraordinary, the product of thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. But it solves a problem that, for most of human history, was solved by simply paying attention to the world, noticing which stick left your mouth cleaner, which plant kept the bugs off, where to go and where never to go. Your ancestors weren't dirty. They were just working with different tools, and a few of those tools, it turns out, were better than we ever gave them credit for.